Hey, what is going on, you moldy munchlax? All the cards for Mask of Change, Japan's latest set that is dropping next week, April 26th, are fully revealed. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. I've taken a look at some of them before, but there's a lot of new ones to take a look at as well. We'll be getting these cards in our Twilight Masquerade set. And speaking of Twilight Masquerade, if y'all are looking to pick up some Twilight Masquerade products, Game Grid has got you covered. Booster boxes over there are going for under $100 if you use my code AzulGG and get yourself a 5% discount. So check them out, GameGridSLC.com. Of course, there will be a link in the description below. Check them out. Get yourself the Twilight Masquerade products you need for the new set. And let's go ahead and let's jump right into the Mask of Change cards that we'll be getting in Twilight Masquerade. The first one is this Sunflora, which is a very obvious, I guess, Charizard counter. Sunshine Return for a grass energy. 60 damage is attack, does 60 damage for each fire energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. And it's not a great Charizard counter because 1, you'd have to be running grass energy. 2, you have to be running Sunflora. And 3, there's no reason that the Charizard player has more than 2 grass energy in play, which means you're not one-hit KOing a Charizard EX. Even with the maximum belt, you want to get the one-hit KO, which is, that's not very good. So yeah, not a good card at all. Maybe, nah. We're gonna move on. Not a good card at all. We got the Volbeat here. Colorless attack, basic Pokemon. If you go first, you can use this attack during your first turn. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. Definitely an interesting attack. The problem with a lot of these Pokemon, of course, is that you have to get into the active, and it has an attack cost. Like, the attack costs an energy. So it does work with Jet Energy. Most of these attacks do work with Jet Energy, but that's still a lot to pull off on your first turn where you're not being able to play a draw supporter. So probably not great, but something to remember that exists. If there's ever a deck that comes up, something like an Espathra would be a good example of this, where you have the Flittle in your deck, and the Flittle has free retreat cost. So playing something like a Volbeat in an Espathra deck might make sense. The problem from there, of course, at that point is Espathra combos with like Zatu specifically, which means you need Zatus on your bench, you need Espathras on your bench, you need Flittles on your bench, maybe some other tech attackers. Do we have room for Volbeat after that first turn on our bench, or does it clog up our bench at that point and become kind of awkward? That's kind of the problem with these cards as well, is like we need to be playing a deck that has that extra bench space to work with, or plays tools like Collapse Stadium, like Turo, so that we can then manipulate our bench later on and get rid of, you know, dead Pokemon that we don't want on our bench anymore, like the Volbeat. So that would actually kind of hold it back a little bit. The Illumise here, the Slowing Perfume. You can use this attack only if you go second and only during your first turn. Shuffle one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, all cards attached to it, into their deck. This is pretty good. This one is also pretty good. And it's also when you go second, which means you have a lot more flexibility to get this into play, into the active, and then actually utilize it. Once again, you then lose that bench space, or that active Pokemon space for the turn going into your next turn. So that's going to be the big drawback. But doing it on your first turn going second, definitely a lot easier to pull off. I've talked about the, was it Screamtail EX before? And I think the Screamtail EX seems really powerful potentially, but it has kind of the same problems where it's like you can only use it on your first turn going second, and your opponent can't play a supporter, but costs an energy to attack with. You got to get into the active. A lot of things have to go right around it to actually make it work. So it becomes a question of, is it worth actually playing those kind of cards that are not super situational because you'd use them every time going second, but how often can you actually pull that off? And then is the cost of pulling that off actually worth the trade-off of you being able to then function on your next turn properly? You know, you attach somewhere else for turn, you didn't use a setup attack, yada. Usually the answer is no, it's not worth the trade-off, but who knows. Got this Wacky in here with the Bang Bang Drum. If your active Pokemon has the ability Festival Lead, you can use this ability, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. So we'll talk about the Festival Lead Pokemon here in just a second as we get to them, but there's a Rillaboom in here as well that you can play with this Thwacky, and it has the Wood Hammer attack for 2 grass energy. It does 180, you do 50 to yourself. 180 as a grass type Pokemon, that does one-hit KO Charizard. 2 grass energy, though, a little bit awkward. Neo Upper Energy would work with something like this. Yeah, I'm not sure how good this card will actually be, but yeah, the big thing is that you could use this with Neo Upper Energy, I think, for sure. And then for 1 grass energy, the Drum attack, 60 damage to your opponent's next turn. That if any Pokemon's attacks and retreat costs are colorless more. I guess like one way you could kind of make this work is if you have the Thwacky that can search your deck for any one card. It's easy to find that Neo Upper Energy, of course. And then also maybe you could play Silene and like loop the Neo Upper Energy with Silene plus Thwacky. That could maybe work there. There might actually be something there, to be honest. Not sure. But yeah, it being able to 1-KO Charizard definitely adds more value to this Thwacky for sure. That's like a pretty big deal being able to 1-KO Charizard that early in the game. I guess it's not that early. It's pretty reasonably early. All right. Moving along, probably the attacker that matters the most for The Festival Leads is the Diplan, which is also grass type. So Festival Lead, if Festival Grounds is in play, this Pokemon may use an attack it has twice. If the first attack knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon, you may attack again after your opponent chooses a new active Pokemon. For 1 grass energy, do the way 20 damage. This attack does 20 more damage for each of your bench Pokemon. So you can fill up your bench and then 1-hit KO Charizard, which is pretty good. So the Diplan, yeah, it does just kind of get through Charizard really aggressively. And then you can combo this Diplan with the Thwackey. You have that ability, so that you can use the Bang Bang Drum, search your deck for any cards, and then, you know, be able to probably consistently set up Diplan after Diplan, knockout after knockout. This could be a pretty good anti-Charizard deck. We'll have to wait and see. The question will be, can it beat anything else? A lot of low HP attackers here. So Iron Hands is going to come through on them. That's not great. So yeah, will they actually be able to compete with other stuff is going to be more so the question, I think, than can this deck beat Charizard? Because it looks like it beats Charizard for sure. Will it be able to beat anything else, I think, is the question. We've taken a look at the Ogerpon stuff before. Go check out my video on the Ogerpon stuff if you want to see me talk about Ogerpon. So I'm going to skip the Ogerpons here and move on. But yeah, I've got a video up on my YouTube channel where I talk about Ogerpon. So go ahead and check that out. I guess I maybe could talk about the Chandelure here quickly. It's not great. The only real use I could see for the Chandelure would be playing it in a control style deck where you then utilize Inviting Light to kind of force your opponent to play the game and draw cards, like kind of milling them aggressively. The ability, once in your turn, you may use this ability. Each player draws a card, so it's a little bit of consistency for you, and it forces your opponent to deck out sooner. Probably not worth it. Probably not worth it. But maybe. That's like the only thing I could see being reasonable with it. All right, we got the Goldeen here with the Festival Lead. Once again, if Festival Grounds is in play, you can use an attack twice. The first attack knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon. You may attack again after your opponent chooses a new active. So my understanding of this ability is that it doesn't work with the TMs, Technical Machines. Otherwise, you could play this with Technical Machine, the Crisis Punch one, and at the end of the game, you could do 280 and then 280, which would be pretty good. But my understanding is that that is not how this works with the Festival Lead ability. But if that is how it works, hey, that's pretty good. Now, the reason the Goldeen is interesting is because they got 1 retreat cost and it's a basic Pokemon. So basically, you can use that Bang Bang Drum ability from Thwackey as like a engine in a deck, where you set up 2, maybe 3 Thwackeys, you get Goldeen in the active with an escape board, and then you use Thwackey's abilities to find any cards you would possibly need to then I don't know, pull off whatever kinds of attacks you want to pull off from there. So that's another way that the Thwackey could be played. It doesn't have to be played alongside the Diplan as like a grass attacking deck, although that does seem like a pretty good combo. You could combo the Thwackeys with Goldeen as that being your kind of engine, where you send up the Goldeen after your Pokemon gets knocked out. There's a rescue board on it, and then you can utilize both of the Thwackey's abilities to search your deck for any 2 cards, and then set up your next attacker, whatever that attacker is from there, and, you know, progress your board state. And the Sea King, nothing really that cool about it at all, to be honest. I got the Peck Off for a water. Before doing damage, discard all tool cards from your opponent's active Pokemon. I don't see that being a real game changer there at all. Keep moving along here. Frostlast is interesting, and it does kind of combo with the Glalie, of course. Not only do they both evolve from the Snorunt, but the Glalie's attack, damage beat for 1 water, 20 damage times the number of damage on your opponent's active Pokemon. The second attack, nothing crazy. Water double colors for 140, discard energy from this Pokemon. Not great, but the first attack does combo pretty well with Frostlast, to be honest. Freezing Curtain, during Pokemon checkup, put 1 damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon in play with an ability, or each Pokemon in play with an ability, both yours and your opponent's, except any Frostlast. So you're building up damage on those ability Pokemon. A lot of really good ability Pokemon in the format right now. And then you can start to swing with the Glalie to kind of close out knockouts. They both evolve from the same Pokemon, which is convenient. But I think we'd have to play like another spread Pokemon alongside Frostlast. Miss Magus is the one that comes to mind that I think would probably be best. So I think like Frostlast, Miss Magus could be some kind of combo there. Is it good enough to be a good spread deck in the format? I don't know. Probably not quite, but we're pretty close to spread being good. Also, Frostlast could just be a good inclusion in decks to just like build up damage in play, and it could be the difference maker. You know, you get Freezing Curtain hitting a Charizard for 40 damage over a couple turns, and that could be a big difference between like getting an effective 1-hit KO or 2-hit KO in a Pokemon. So it's possible Frostlast is just included in some kind of attacking deck that just allows you to build up some damage on those ability Pokemon, get you closer to those 1-hit KOs. I can't think of anything off the top of my head to do a combo with immediately, besides, like I said, the Miss Magus spread combo is kind of cool, and Miss Magus' ability would combo really well with the Glalie. The Miss Magus' ability says when it gets KO'd, you put 8 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon that KO'd it, so then that would combo into the damage beat pretty well. We have TM Devo, of course, in format that would allow us to then de-evolve Pokemon in play as well. There might be something there. We'll have to wait and see. the Palin EX. This card is crazy. So stage 1, let's talk about these first. There's a Finizen here that's coming out. We don't really care. There's other Finizens. I don't know what the best Finizen is right now, to be honest. But then we got this Palin here, 100 HP, evolves from the Finizen, 0 to hero ability. Once in your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your active spot to the bench, you may search your deck for a Palin EX and switch it with this Pokemon. Any cards attached, damage counter, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. If you switch a Pokemon in this way, shuffle this card into your deck. So the Finizen and the Palin go back to the deck when the card goes from the active to the bench, and then you get this Palin EX, 340 HP, only 1 attack for 1 water energy, 250 damage. So a ton of HP, a super efficient attack. A little bit annoying to get it into play. We definitely have to play a high count of switch cards in this deck to make this work. But we still have switch in the format. We also have, what else do we have? We have switch, we have switch cart. So you could like theoretically switch the Palin to the bench into some basic Pokemon and then switch cart that basic Pokemon back into the Palin EX once that's in play, and then we're hitting with the Giga Impact for 250. The ability just says, put this Pokemon into play with the effect of Palin's 0 to hero ability. It is weak to Lightning. Iron Hands is definitely a relevant Pokemon in the current format, but 340 HP, doing 250 damage is definitely nothing to scoff at. This card seems pretty good, and I think the biggest thing that would hold it back would just be how popular Lightning Pokemon are, to be honest. But yeah, Palin seems like a pretty good card. I'm excited to try out the Palin for sure. Once again, we're skipping the Ogre Pawns here. I've talked about them before. Check out the Ogre Pawn video here on the YouTube channel if you want to hear my thoughts on that. Luxray EX, 310 HP. That's a lot of HP. Stage 2, Piercing Glint for 2 colorless energy, 120. Look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card you find there. This card, I think, is pretty ridiculously good. I'm excited for this one. This seems super powerful. We have to wait and see for sure, of course, but doing 120 damage. That KO stuff like B-Barrel, and if you get like a Defiance Band involved, you're KOing Pidgeot EX, which means you can remove your opponent's support Pokemon from play. While knocking out your opponent's support Pokemon, you're also removing any card from their hand. I mean, you could see some crazy plays where it's like you set up your Luxray, counter catcher the B-Barrel, Eerie, Piercing Glint, remove 2 or 3 cards from their hand, 2 item cards with the Eerie, and then any other card from their hand with the Piercing Glint. You're doing damage, you're threatening knockouts. This is a scary card. This card seems really, really good to me. I'm excited for this one. Definitely like a pseudo-control type deck you'd play this with. And the Volt Strike's not bad either. You are like threatening knockout pressure as well. For 2 lightning, 250 discard all energy from this Pokemon. Neo Upper Energy would work at this. You could play basic lightnings. The double colorless on the Piercing Glint means you probably want to be playing this with double turbo. Double turbo gets a little bit weird because then you can't KO Pidgeot is like the weird thing. If you do a double turbo and a Defiance Band, you're so short on KOing Pidgeot. I guess you could play the Maximum Belt, but of course Prime Catcher is always really good. Hero's Cape might be good as well. So I'm not sure what tool card you'd actually want to play, to be honest. But I mean, one of those works for sure. But yeah, this card seems insanely good. I'm really excited for the Luxray. Yeah, Luxray EX control seems pretty good. That seems pretty good for sure. I'm definitely excited for that one. We'll see in the end. Clefable here is pretty decent for 2 colorless energy. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. That's pretty good for 2 colorless energy. We have double turbo in the format, and even without double turbo, it's pretty efficient to set up. Copy stuff like Lost Impact on Tina. Charizard's attack is always a good copy. So this seems decent. I don't know where you're really slotting in like a Clefable line into a deck though. Maybe in like a an Arceus deck, because you have double turbos in Arceus already. You could play like Arceus Clefable, possibly. Look out for Arceus Clefable. Could be a thing. Who knows? Maybe not. The Abra here's got a pretty cool ability. Once in your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you might shuffle in all cards attached back into your deck. Kind of like Pidgeot V, where it gives you kind of like almost an infinite way to never deck out. If you play like 2 Abras, you can like put one back to the deck, send up an Abra, repeat, possibly. Not quite as good as Pidgeot V. So while we have Pidgeot V in the format, as long as there's nothing stopping it from going back to the deck, like if Spiritomb is not too popular, then there's no reason not to just play Pidgeot V to prevent yourself from decking out as opposed to this Abra. But interesting ability nonetheless for stuff like that moving forward, preventing yourself from decking out. Here's another one, another Pokemon kind of like the Goldeen. You can combo this with that Thwackey to kind of be your engine. Put a rescue board on it. It has that Festival Lead ability still. The attack's a little bit better though. The Goldeen's attack, I didn't mention it, for 2 colorless energy, you flip a coin. If heads, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon and it does 10 damage. So that means that's decent as well. This one has the sneaky place and put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon for a Psychic. That seems like it's probably a little bit better overall, a little bit more consistent. But removing energy is pretty good, but it does cost 2 colorless. Of course, with this one, you'd have to be playing Psychic Energy. But if you're like playing like a Diplan build, you could play like Luminous Energy. So you could like, I guess you wouldn't want to really involve Swirlix with Diplan. Maybe you would, though. Maybe you still want some kind of basic with the festival lead to get your Thwackies online more consistently instead of kind of waiting until you get the Diplan online. I could see that. I'm not too sure, but yeah. For decks that are like using Thwacky as an engine, which I don't think will be that many. It's a pretty big investment. You have to set up like 2 Thwackies and then also get that other, so it's like 3 Pokemon total to get that cooking. Monkey Dory here with the Adrenaline Brain ability. I've gone through these. What are they? The Magnificent 3 before. We'll take a quick look at them here again. Nothing has really come out that actually combos with their abilities the way I thought it would. Once your turn, if this Pokemon has any Darkness energy attached to it, you may move up to 3 damage challenge from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Seems good. Combos with Paralysis Articuno really well. Getting the Dark Energy on here is going to be awkward. And I thought there would be like some form of like Darkness energy acceleration for these cards. Because here we have the Pheasantipede. If this Pokemon has any Darkness energy attached to it and any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin of heads, prevent that damage. So you need the Darkness energy, Psychic energy, 30 damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon. Kind of combos with Guardy, but like nothing really crazy, to be honest. It's not that good overall, and it needs that Darkness energy to really take advantage of that ability. The ability is super strong, but where's this Darkness energy coming from? I don't know where the Darkness energy is. I guess you could play it with Zatu, like Zatu Pheasantipede, I guess could be a thing, and you play like Luminous energy, or I mean, I guess you just play basic Darkness energy plus basic Psychic. That could be a thing. Pheasantipede plus Zatu, I guess. I mean, the ability is good, but getting there consistently while making sure you're doing enough damage to actually put pressure on your opponent seems like the drawback of this card. I was expecting some form of weird energy acceleration to work with those cards with their abilities. Got the Conkeldurr here. I don't think it's going to be enough. It is a stage 2, but the attack is like really strong. For fighting colorless, 250, but if you're affected by a special condition, you can use the attack for free. Ignore its energy costs. And we got Brute Bonnet in the format. Put the Ancient Capsule on there. Both active Pokemon are poisoned, including the Conkeldurr. Attacking for free. That's a lot of damage for free, but stage 2, it's like Chain Conkeldurrs. We're not one-hit KOing Charizard. I think it's going to come up a little bit short, but it's close. I think it's close. It feels close, but it's not quite there, I don't think. My guess is going to be it's not quite there. The Okidogi, if this Pokemon has any Darkness energy attached to it, once again, plus 100 HP and your attacks, so 100 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, but then it has a fighting attack cost. Like, how are we getting a Dark energy and 2 fighting energy on this thing multiple times throughout a game? I don't think that's happening. Yeah, I think the Magnificent 3, is that what they're called? Someone let me know. Someone told me they were called the Magnificent 3, or is it something close to that and I'm like messing it up? Whatever. Basically, I don't think they do it. I don't think they get the job done. I don't know how we're getting that energy on there. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something. Is there like some stage 2 that accelerates Dark energy or something to your Pokemon? Maybe there's something like that in format that I'm just like not thinking about. But then if the stage 2 is probably not that good. Heatran here with an ability. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if it's knocked out, the attacking Pokemon is now burned. Not great. Metal Colorless, discard all metal energy attached to this Pokemon. This deck does 50 damage for each card discarded this way. Honestly, I just shouldn't have read this one. It had an ability. I hadn't read it yet. So I was like, ooh, maybe there's something cool here. Just shouldn't have read it. The Dragapult looks sick, though. I'm excited for the Dragapult. Really excited for it. Let's take a look at this Dracloak first. This is one of the main reasons I'm excited for the Dragapult. There's a built-in engine, much like the Guardy. One of the big things that make Guardy good is the refinement. Curlia, Dracloak, once on your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand and put the other on the bottom of the deck. Not quite as strong as Refinement. I think Refinement is definitely better, but built-in draw engine is pretty powerful in stage 2 Pokemon when they're so powerful like the Dragapult. For 1 colorless energy, 70 damage. It's okay. For Fire Psychic, though, 200 damage, put 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon anyway. Like, that is pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm a big fan of this card. Big fan of this card for sure. The energy is a little bit awkward, though. Neo Upper Energy is an option. Mela is an option. Manual Attaching, of course, is an option. The Dragapult's probably not getting aggressively one-hit KO, so we got some time with it as well. The energy is a little bit awkward, though. I'm not going to lie. A Psychic and a Fire. I mean, what could we run here? Maybe Zatu. I guess we could get Zatu plus Fire Self. That's a little bit awkward still, though, having to set up Zatus. Yeah, I'm not sure. That might be if anything holds this card back, I think it's going to be the fact that its attack costs a Fire and a Psychic. Because that is awkward. I'm not going to lie. That is awkward. The best card from this set, I think, so far, the Tatugiri, man. This card is insanely powerful. First off, 70 HP, so you can buddy pop him for it. Second off, its ability, once on your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck, reveal a supporter you find there, and put it into your hand. That's really, really strong. Every card like this in the past has always been really, really good. Of course, the Jirachi with Stellar Wish was always the most broken one. Get any trainer card. This is limited to supporters. We had Mew last format that was limited to items, and it has 1 retreat cost. We have Rescue Board in the format. I think Tatugiri is going to be insanely powerful for Lost Zone decks. Having like an on-board way to find Colress and Roxanne and Boss's Orders and something like Lostina is going to be absurdly powerful. And then also in other decks as well, like Charizard is probably going to play this as a one-of. Get a Rescue Board in there. Maybe not. Maybe just use the Fire Acceleration to retreat it. But this just seems ridiculously powerful in So many decks. Yeah, the Tatugiri is absurd. Probably the best card in this set so far. I can't think of anything that's better. Definitely not the Blissy X, but we're gonna go ahead and read it anyways. 300 HP, that's a lot of HP. Happy switch. Once on your turn, you may move a basic energy card from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon, and then return for triple colorless 180. You may draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So built-in draw on the attack. The attack 2-hit KOs everything. Doesn't really 1-hit KO anything. And then the ability, you may move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. This card actually seems pretty good. So you can build up your energy and play through manual attachments or whatever. Move the basic energy around from Blissey to Blissey. And then you Charon's Care Blissey, put the Chansey back down, punch with Blissey, repeat. And because you have this constant built-in draw power with the 180, you're constantly drawing cards, drawing back into those Charon's Cares, punching for 180 over and over and over again. Nothing really one-hit KOs you early game. Charizard will eventually KO you in the late game. Could get some tool cards involved. You got like the Rigid Band that reduces the damage you take by 20. I don't know if that's going to be like a big difference for like 1-hit KOs or 2-hit KOs or anything like that. But yeah, the Blissey EX seems decent. I'm excited for this card. This like, it's got a lot of HP, built-in draw power in the attack. The ability helps you as well. It's interesting. This definitely has the Blissey has the potential. Like, this is the kind of card when I make my buy list video that this will make my buy list. I think it has enough potential to make the buy list for sure. The Ampy Palm. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may flip 2 coins. For each head, choose a random card from your opponent's hand. Your opponent reveals a card, shuffles it into their deck. I don't know, man. These are those kind of cards where it's like, this does not seem bad. Could be some potential hand lock shenanigans going on here. You know, you Roxanne or Iono your opponent low, evolve double Ampy Palm, hit them with some Wicked Tails, reduce their hand size. Maybe Luxray gets involved. I don't know. That sounds annoying, though. The Ampy Palm has potential. Not in a very fun deck to play against, though. It might be fun if you're playing this deck. It's not going to be a fun to play against an Ampy Palm deck, though. It's going to be some hand lock shenanigans. And flipping 2 coins, you know, you combo that with like Luxray V or the Luxray EX that we're getting in this set. You can completely hand wipe someone with Roxanne. And that does not sound fun to play against literally at all. This card, we have no way to control the top deck that's like reasonable. There is a stage 2 Gothitelle in the format right now that looks at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, I believe, and then rearranges them. But it's like stage 2. It's another stage 2 you'd have to set up. So hard locking your opponent is pretty tough. And of course, on board draw power exists as well. Pidgeot, B-Barrel, Tatugiri. So it's hard to hand lock your opponent right now. Thankfully, I think hand locking is kind of cringe, to be honest. Waking Whistle. What were they thinking with this card? This card is actually just like, what? Look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. Put any number of basic Pokemon you find there onto their opponent's bench. Your opponent shuffles the remaining cards back to the deck. What? Do they want Quadlax to be broken? I don't know. It's not broken right now, but this card is a game changer for Quadlax for sure. That is just so good for Quadlax, or just control in general. Maybe not Pidgeot Control. Pidgeot Control might not be a huge fan of this card because you definitely would want to play like 4 of these, to be honest, in Quadlax. Whereas Pidgeot Control would maybe play 1 of these, but probably none, to be honest. They have other win conditions that they're trying to emphasize that are a little bit more consistent. The Waking Whistle, definitely not a super consistent win condition, but if you got 4 of them, you can spam them at your opponent. You got Mantine to back it up in case they discard basics out of their hand. You got Erica's Invitation to interact with their hand. Like, you're attacking their deck and their hand from a bunch of different angles. Their discard pile with the Mantine, like, yeah, the Waking Whistle seems really, really good, to be honest, for Quadlax. Like, annoyingly good. Like, I hate that they put in this card because it only seems good in Quadlax and like nothing else. Yeah, this card, I don't like this card. Secret Box, an interesting A-spec. It doesn't seem that powerful, though, to be honest. Discard 3 cards from your hand in order to use this card. That's a lot of cards to discard. Then you search your deck for 1 item, 1 Pokemon tool, 1 supporter, and 1 stadium. Reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. What are we getting? What are we getting off of this that combos so well with? You're discarding 3 cards to play this card, and you have to find this card. And the best way to find item cards is with a supporter. So if we're using Arven to find our secret box, we can't play the supporter. So this card doesn't seem that good for basically that reason. And maybe if there's like an ability on a Pokemon that allows you to search your deck for an item card, that would fix it. But otherwise, this card does not seem that great, to be honest. Yeah, I don't even know what. This also means we're not playing Prime Catcher. Secret Box seems mid. Maybe it'll combo really well with a card eventually coming out that allows us to find items more aggressively. It doesn't involve us using our supporter. That's the biggest thing. If we're using our supporter to find the item, to then find a supporter, what are we doing? Scoop Up Cyclone, on the other hand, though, I think has a lot more potential. Put one of your Pokemon all cards, attach it into your hand. Not bad, not bad. Definitely some deck will take advantage of Scoop Up Cyclone. Not going to be a tier 1 A-spec. It'll be a niche A-spec for sure. This is a reprint, by the way. We did have this for anyone who didn't play with A-specs back in the day, 2014, 15, 16. Expanded tournaments. Yeah, Scoop Up Cyclone is a reprint of an A-spec that we had back in the day. It was a decent niche ace spec, and I think it will maintain to be that moving forward. Bug catching set. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may choose up to 2 in any combination of grass Pokemon or basic grass cards you find there, reveal them, and put them in your hand, then shuffle the other cards back in deck. We've talked about this card before. It seems okay. Handy Fan. This card seems annoying. I don't like that this card exists. This is more control shenanigans here. Whenever the active Pokemon this card is attached to takes damage from an opponent's attack, move an energy from the attacking Pokemon to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Bam. Slap this on your Luxray EX. You got 310 HP. You're not dying very quickly to anything. Hand lock a Charizard, they punch you, they lose an energy. I don't know what you do from there, to be honest. I haven't figured that part out yet, but that's pretty good. Dude, this thing, what? Put some crushing hammers in there, we're hitting heads? Like, they really want the control aspect of the game to be emphasized. And I don't hate that if it's like not like hard control decks, but like these kind of cards being involved in stuff, like we see like kind of like the controls are, you know, taking advantage of Eerie and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. But yeah, there's a lot of pseudo control stuff coming out recently that it's gonna make things interesting for sure. Control has a moment here for sure to take over. We'll see if it actually takes advantage of this. You can only play this oops, I skipped a couple here, hang on. Kieran, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, or you can do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX and active Pokemon V. Choose one supporter card. I've talked about it before, seems decent, especially making use of the plus 30 damage. Especially making use of the plus 30 damage, and then you have that added effect of making it being a switch card as well. So decent supporter here. Carmine, I actually love this card. If you go first, you may play this card during your first turn. Discard your hand and draw 5 cards. I just think this card seems super strong for any deck that currently plays Luminion. And then any deck that doesn't play Luminion, you would maybe even consider playing Luminion to include this card. I don't know. I think this card seems super strong. I'm maybe overhyping this card a little bit. Looking back on what I said about it last time when I talked about this card when it first got revealed, I maybe overhyped it a little bit. I don't know. I'm still a big fan, though. If you play Luminion, why would you not include this as a one-of? I feel like you just gotta. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck, put any 3 of them into your hand, shuffle the deck, and shuffle the rest into your deck. You can only play this card if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. That's a lot of value to like gain to your already current hand, to be honest. Look at the top 8, take the best 3, obviously, from there. Like you could just play Research, just card your hand and draw 7, but then you're just carding all the cards in your current hand. So this card's like pretty decent, it feels like. Of course, the problem with it is your opponent does have to take a knockout, so it's not going to be a super consistent supporter. Obviously, you can't use it in the early game. That's going to be the drawback of this one, but it definitely seems decent. I like what's going on here for sure. We got to the stadium, finally, the festival grounds. All Pokemon in play that have an energy attached to them can't be affected by special conditions. Heal all special conditions from any Pokemon that have any energy attached to them. So this is the stadium that combos with the Pokemon that can attack twice, as well as if you get one of them in the active, utilizing the Thwacky's ability, of course. So yeah, this is the stadium with that. I mean, in those kind of decks, you'd probably run 4 if you're playing like a Diplan deck. You don't need the stadium in play to utilize the Thwacky's ability as well. You can just have one of those Pokemon in the active. It just removes all special conditions, which is also just like an interesting stadium for us to have access to. Like I mentioned earlier with the, was it Monkey Guru or whatever that card is called, being able to move damage around, Articuno or something like that can make a comeback. Having something like Festival Grounds could be a way to counter that. Of course, Switch always works, but being able to put something in play that could stick around for multiple turns, a little bit more beneficial. See how it goes. Jamming Tower, a lot of decent tool cards right now. Nothing ridiculous. Of course, Guardy is the deck that's taking the most advantage of tool cards. But we have another way to deal with tools when Lost Vacuum does rotate, which it will rotate with the next rotation, but this card won't. Jamming Tower will be around. Pokemon tool cards attached to Pokemon in play, both your opponents have no effect. Pretty good, pretty solid. It'd be nice to have a way to deal with tool cards once Vacuum does rotate. And that kind of feels like this isn't better than Vacuum, because like you have stuff like Arven and Irida that can go search your deck for Vacuum. You can't really search your deck for stadiums as easily, but it's nice to know that when Vacuum does rotate, they've already kind of given us a way to deal with tool cards. Once next rotation hits, we'll have Jamming Tower, and that'll be our way to get tools or to deal with tool cards that are in play, or preemptively try and deal with them before they can come into play, which can also be pretty powerful as well, stopping stuff like a Maximum Belt or something like that. So we're prepared for when rotation hits and we lose Vacuum, I guess. Legacy, why is my scroll thing being so weird? Legacy energy, as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but only provides one at the time. And as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, when it is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, your opponent takes 1 less energy card. You can only use this effect once per game, so you can't recycle this with Silene and then have your opponent draw less prize cards multiple turns in a row. But definitely seems decent. Something like in that Diplan deck that I was talking about earlier. If you get this on a Diplan, it'll be easy to find, of course, because we do have the ability from the Thwacky to search our deck for any one card during our turn, so we can easily find our Legacy energy, put it in play, makes it so our opponent doesn't draw a prize card off our Diplan. Of course, it is a special energy, and Enhanced Hammer is coming out. Not in this set. I think Enhanced Hammer's already out in Japan, actually, to be honest. But the Enhanced Hammer for us will be coming out with the Twilight Masquerade set. So Enhanced Hammer will be in the format, but if it's not too heavily played, it's definitely very, very powerful energy here in the Legacy Energy. Even if Enhanced Hammer is played, you can still play something like Silene, like Roseanne's backup to recover it and use it again. Definitely a very powerful energy card. I really like what they did with the A-Specs, to be honest. The only A-Spec that seems truly... Honestly, the worst A-Spec... Well, I mean, Neo Upper Energy obviously hasn't seen any play. Like, the worst A-Specs right now are, like, Neo Upper Energy, and then Secret Box doesn't seem very good either. I'm not a big fan of what they did, what Secret Box is. It might become better as we progress further, though, and there's more options for it, I guess. But yeah, Secret Box doesn't seem great. Neo Upper J obviously has not been great, but all the other A-Specs, I've been like a big fan of what they've done with them so far. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how they actually play out. And of course, there's more time for stuff like the Neo Upper Energy to play out and be a little bit better, be a little bit more impactful than we've seen so far. But that's going to do it for my thoughts on the cards from, was it Mask of Change? These are the cards we're going to be getting in Twilight Masquerade at the end of May. Let me know what you think. Did I skip over anything that I should have read? Did I miss something here? What are some cool combos that I didn't talk about with some of the cards that I did mention? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you guys need to pick up some Twilight Masquerade products, Game Grid has got you covered. Game Grid SLC. Link in the description. Use code AzulGG. Catch y'all in the next one.